We're prepared to start with item 13. We can't do without you, Mr. Miller. Item 13, consideration of a resolution for first reading adoption under suspension of the rules. Mr. Miller.
Madam President, I move that Rule number 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular meetings of council, and Rule 13A requiring reference to committee be suspended, and that resolution number 2011-0136 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Is there a second? Second. All right, moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it to suspend the rules. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0136, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an agreement with State of Ohio Department of Administrative Services in the amount not to exceed $861,007.79 for purchase and installation of a tower site and associated equipment for the Multi-Agency Radio Communications System, also known as MARCS, for the period April 12, 2011 through August 15, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rogers, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is out of the Safety Committee. I'd like to recognize the 2 fire chiefs that are here. Gentlemen, do you want to come up and put your name on the record?
Madam Chair, I'm Scott Gilman. I'm Chief of Lakewood Fire Department, and we request Council's favorable consideration on this motion. This has been a long-standing issue, and this will help the county fire departments and police departments address interoperability for emergencies in and throughout Cuyahoga County, as well as tie into the statewide system. Considerable funds have already been reallocated to the MARC system to build other infrastructure and make infrastructure improvements throughout the county, and this will be the last step in that process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief Greg Loftus, Cleveland Metro Park Rangers, representing law enforcement. Reiterate Chief Gilman's regards in terms of the MARCS radio system. This is the final build-out for Cuyahoga County, and it is much needed throughout the state, provide state interoperability. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
Madam Chair, if I may interject, while Ms. Simon was out of the room, your colleagues voted in the affirmative to suspend the rules for this item. How would you like to vote on that matter?
Affirmatively.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for catching that. All right, item 14, committee report and consideration of resolution for second reading under suspension of the rules.
Madam President.
Yes.
Madam President, I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions to be read at 3 different regular meetings of council be suspended, and that resolution number 2011-0099 and 2011-0100 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Brady for suspension of the rules. Is there all those in favor indicate by saying aye? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, the rules are suspended. This was originally for no action, but we are going to adopt it tonight. Is that correct? All right. Is there, Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2011-0099, a resolution approving a rental rehabilitation loan in the amount not to exceed $150,000 to Cleveland Housing Network for the Independence Place project located at 4019 Prospect Avenue, Cleveland, authorizing the county executive and or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jimana, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Is there any discussion?
President. Yes, I move to suspend the rules to allow consideration of a verbal amendment. Madam President,
Yes.
the amendment's going to be to make it effective immediately.
Okay. So that was, the motion to suspend was moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Rogers, is that right? For the verbal amendment? Okay,
Madam President,
yes.
I'd like a little better understanding of this particular item.
Ron, chairman of the, oh, I'm sorry, come on.
Go ahead, I'll fill in if there's anything.
Yeah, I was just going to say Mr. Schron was not present. I thought Mr. Brady had some information on it.
Only going to say that in the absence of Mr. Schron, that we should have somebody come forward from the administration.
Okay.
This loan is to rehab 22 units at the site. We're using CDBG funds. The source is, and it was approved by council, by the committee unanimously. What will happen is the funds will be used to rehab the site. It's going to be used for folks that are aging out of the YMCA, helping them transition from, these are women that are transitioning from,
WCA?
yep, that are transitioning from living there and then going into, it's transitional housing. So that's the source. We want them to have a good living environment.
Madam Chair.
I believe that's Miss Irene Collins, is that correct? As the executive director of the YWCA?
I can't answer that.
She's not here, is she?
Madam Chair. Testimony at the Economic Development Committee. This is for young ladies that are now too old to be in foster care. So this is the bridge.
It's an important population to serve. All right, any other discussion, any questions?
Madam President?
Yeah.
We need you to call the question on whether to accept a verbal amendment.
All right, all those in favor of accepting the verbal amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the resolution is so amended.
Madam President?
Yes.
The resolution has not yet been amended. We only suspended the rules to allow consideration.
Okay.
I move that Resolution 2011-0099 be amended for the law director to provide us a standard language saying that provided that it receives the vote of 8 or more members of council, that it shall become immediately effective upon passage, and stating the reasons why this is necessary.
Second that motion.
Now, so you need the law director to read something into the record?
Probably would be helpful if
All
you
right.
could do that.
Okay. The amendment would read, "It is necessary that this resolution become immediately effective in order that critical services provided by Cuyahoga County can continue and to continue the usual and daily operation of the county. Provided that this resolution receives the affirmative vote of 8 members of council, this resolution shall become immediately effective upon the signature of the county executive."
Okay, so now we need a motion to adopt the verbally amended motion.
I move that amendment.
All
We
right.
just need a second.
All right, second? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. So the amendment is now adopted. All right. So now, do we have any discussion on the amended motion? All right, so I assume we can call the roll on the amended, or call for a vote on the amendment. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, ayes have it. All right, can we let's start the sale process again with 0100. Do we have to make this one immediately effective also?
Things going to happen.
All right,
Reading this item into the record, resolution number 2011-0100, a resolution approving an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $100,800 to DBS Property Management for renovation of property located at 5061 West 161st Street, Brook Park, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan.
Madam President,
Mr. Miller.
in my district, of which there aren't many, move to adopt.
And quick.
No, wait a minute, you want to make this immediately, don't you?
First, I just want to get it. I
Okay.
just want to get it on the floor for discussion by moving to adopt.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
yes,
Since it abuts Parma, I'll second it.
all right. Moved by Mr.
President.
Miller, seconded by Mr. Germana. All right, so we now have it on the floor.
Madam President.
Yes.
Move that we suspend the rules to allow for consideration of a verbal amendment.
Is there a second to suspend the rules?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Greenspan to suspend the rules for the oral amendment. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, ayes have it, so we may now go with the amendment.
Madam President.
Mr.
Move
Miller.
to amend Resolution 2011-0100 to add the standard language that would allow it to become immediately effective, which we can have the law director read for us.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, Mr. Morales.
It is necessary that this resolution become immediately effective in order that critical services provided by Cuyahoga County can continue and to continue the usual and daily operation of the county. Provided that this resolution receives the affirmative vote of 8 members of council, this resolution shall become immediately effective upon the signature of the county executive.
All right, there's any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the resolution is so amended. Now, do we vote on the merits?
The motion, resolution as amended.
All right, any discussion on the motion as amended? All right, all those in favor?
Yeah, Madam President, I do have a question. Well, what is the motivation for this particular loan? It's an economic development project, but I've seen it. It's a 2-story brick building, mile from the airport. What is the motivation for this loan?
Madam President, this project located in the suburbs of Parma on Brook Park, in Brook Park, is a site for a little bit of growth for DBS Communications. It's a business inside a pretty ugly building. This loan, it's a $250,000 project. About $100,000 of the project is going to come from a loan from the county that will be repaid and secured with the property. There's some job creation requirements to it, so the site will have to create 3 jobs, retain another. This was brought to us as part of, it was brought to us by the City of Brook Park. City of Brook Park doesn't have a robust economic development portfolio, so it's a big deal to Brook Park. But I think that the councilman's question is a legitimate one. What is the strategy in how we're implementing these different programs, and why this one and not a different $100,000 one in another city? And so right now, we've been very reactive. And what you're seeing is the tail off of some of those projects that came to us in previous years that are not necessarily part of a strategy, but the result of a loan product that we offered to our cities inside the county. What we'd like to do is start to transition away from that, where we're targeting areas, geographic areas and industries where we can have investments that are part of a larger strategy. And you'll start to see that as the Economic Development Department and our strategy evolves. And some of those tools will be buttressed by some of the announcements that we'll start to work on that the executive will announce on Wednesday.
Madam President, so this is clearly something that's important in Brook Park, but what does DBS do as a business? What do they do?
They do some real estate and some communications. I'm not sure what their business is other than that they do communications. So I think that is, I can't speak to it. So the holding company management owns the business and does the real estate, and they're the borrower. DBS Communications is the business that has to do the job creation of 3 jobs.
All right, any other questions, discussions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item 15, committee report and consideration of resolutions for second reading, adoption under suspension of the rules.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes.
I move that Rule 9D, requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular meetings of council, be suspended, and that Resolution 2011-0021, Resolution 2011-0083, Resolution 2011-0084, Resolution 2011-0103, Resolution 2011-0105, and finally, Resolution 2011-0134 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting. These are, I need a second.
You got to keep going.
Second.
Resolutions that have been heard over the last several weeks at the Health and Human Services Committee. And so we'll proceed from here.
I moved by Mr. Brady for suspension of rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Germana. All those in favor of suspending the rules for items under 15 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
1, 2, 3,
Or-
4, 5.
32 and 33.
Oh, no, those
Oh, okay.
are. Madam Chairperson, could we have Director Warner come up and speak to these resolutions? We
All right.
had unanimous support by the committee over the last several weeks, but we'd like to be refreshed about these various resolutions.
All right, if we have the first one, then item 21, then we'll hear from Mr. Werner.
Resolution number 2011-0021, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Cleveland Food Bank Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $272,500 for emergency food purchase and distribution to Cuyahoga County hunger centers and food pantries serving residents in need for the period January 1, 2011 through March 31, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Madam President and Mr. Chairman of the Human Services Committee and to the Council, this is a resolution that authorizes the county to enter into a contract with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank for the provision of food to hunger centers and pantries and kitchens in the community for the first quarter of 2011. As you may know, the county has historically committed a little bit over $1 million a year to hunger programs, and for many years worked with the Hunger Network, and more recently, after an RFP last year, moved the funding over to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, but still to serve the existing organizations that had been served through the Hunger Network. When the county executive took office in January, both organizations had worked for some time last year unsuccessfully in putting together a memorandum of understanding as to how they would work together under this funding stream. The county executive brought both organizations together and asked them to continue their work on that MOU, and through the good offices of Jim Boyle from the county executive staff, the two organizations have been continuing to work on an MOU to make sure that the funds that the county commits to the hunger programs go to the folks at the kitchens and the food programs. The administration has made the decision to come forward with 1 quarter's worth of funding in order to allow the discussions that are going on between those two organizations to continue. And it is our expectation that we will come back with a contract for the remaining 3 quarters worth of dollars for the year when the discussions between both organizations are complete. By putting this contract into place, we will ensure that no hunger program that has previously relied upon the county funding for the foodstuffs will not get those. Let me put it the positive way. All the food programs that have been relying on the county dollars for their supplies will continue to get those as the discussions for the MOU go forward.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr.
I just want to give you a quick update on that and expand on something Mr. Werner mentioned. Really thought it was important when you have these two good organizations, being the Food Bank and the Hunger Network, that have been kind of operating on parallel tracks. Unfortunately, communications between them had basically broken down and they had stopped working together. We had some leverage over the situation because of this amount of money that we're able to disperse to either one organization or the other. We insisted that they come in for mediation. Mr. Boyle from my staff ended up being the mediator or arbitrator. We've had several discussions with them, and I'm pleased to report to you that as of yesterday, both organizations have reached a tentative agreement which they are going to be presenting to their boards for approval. It hasn't been approved by their boards, but their negotiating committees, the leadership of both organizations agreed to it, and will be presenting it to their boards for approval. It's a good, besides this particular issue, it's a good template, it's a good model for us to use when we try as a county and as a funder of a lot of these agencies to use that position in a positive way to strongly encourage cooperation between nonprofit agencies, which there are over 9,000 in this county. And so we're going to use this, hopefully, this process, which worked pretty well in this instance, as a model going forward.
All right, we need a motion, I believe.
I just wanted to commend the executive. The way I understand this, it was brought to the committee that last year the county had decided to choose one organization over the other. And so this was an attempt to bring everybody to the table to make sure that everybody is served in the community by both of these longstanding organizations, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve whatever differences they may have about their responsibilities and also what the county's role is in funding them.
Mr. Germano?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm assuming since the time period has passed, it's this past March 31st, that we'll be reimbursing them. They did, in fact, distribute the food?
Madam Chair, to the councilman, yes, they have already done the distribution, and so we will be reimbursing them, yes, sir.
Madam President?
Yes.
I'd like to also commend the executive on this use of leverage, because my understanding from the last committee was that the Cleveland Food Bank purchased the food at a discounted rate, and Hunger Network was actually buying food from Cleveland Food Bank, and it was conveyed that the sense I got was that we were cutting out the middleman, so to speak. But this is clearly more. This is a little more clarity as to what's actually going on. Now, what I would like to know, my question is, two parallel organizations. Well, what strength does Hunger Network bring to the table? What is it that, if they're buying food from, and I'm sure they maybe not just the middleman, what did Hunger Network bring to the table as a strength of that organization?
Madam Chair, to the councilman, historically the Hunger Network has had more of a grassroots orientation, so has worked with local community organizations, churches, food pantries to ensure that they were run as efficiently and effectively as possible. Oftentimes those individual organizations were using volunteer help in order to distribute the food, and so the Hunger Network attempted to essentially be almost a trade association and sometimes a training organization for the individual food programs in the community. So I think they lifted the professionalism, if you will, and the approach that the individual programs took over time. And the Hunger Network has been around for many, many years. They were originally part of the Greater Cleveland Interchurch Council many, many years ago. That's where they got their start, and then they became independent. The Food Bank, on the other hand, started as purely a food distribution organization, and the purchase, as you mentioned, of bulk food, and the receipt of and the recipient of federal free food that it could then distribute to programs. Essentially, for many, many years, the Hunger Network was purchasing the majority of its food from the food bank for its affiliate members. And so the decision that the commissioners made in 2009 and 2010 was to send the funding directly to the food bank, but for the benefit, again, of the hunger programs that had previously been serviced through the Hunger Network. So I think that's background. Both organizations, based on a study that was done by an independent consultant in 2010, are strong organizations with good boards. But as the county executive mentioned, there are overlaps between what they do and some of the ways that they can more efficiently and effectively serve the food pantries and food organizations are to collaborate more. And I think that's what the mediation that Mr. Boyle is undertaking is attempting to effectuate.
I'm glad the county has been able to play an instrumental role in the collaboration of two leaders in this industry area.
We're still in need of a motion for adoption. Yeah.
I have one question to the director. You mentioned earlier that the county's traditional commitment has been $1 million, and this is appears to be for the first quarter. So we're going to see a few more resolutions of this sort as we move forward.
Madam Chair, to the councilman, I would anticipate that based on the discussions and the process that the county executive just summarized with you that for you that Mr. Boyle is going through, I would imagine that we could potentially be coming back with either an amendment to this contract or a new contract that would serve for the balance of the year. We wanted to make sure that for this year and for the first quarter, of this year, that the food bank was reimbursed for the food that it has provided to the programs thus far this year. So it was really just to make sure that they were kept whole for the first quarter as the discussions that Mr. Boyle was engaging in were continuing.
Great, thank you.
Madam President?
Yes,
Move to adopt on 2011-0021.
finally. I've been trying to get that for a while. All right, is there a second? Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Bennett. Is there any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. 0083.
Resolution number 2011-0083, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $926,071 for fiscal agent services to expend funds provided through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 for qualitative Help Me Grow Part C early intervention services to eligible families for the period July 1, 2010 through June 30, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt.
By Mr. Miller,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Brady. Any discussion? All right, and no discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. 0084.
Resolution number 2011-0084, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $2,264,000 for legal services for the period January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Moved by Mr. Rogers, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. 0103.
Resolution number 2011-0103, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment to contract number CE 10249 with Oriana House Incorporated for operation of a neighborhood reentry resource center for the period February 1, 2010 through January 31, 2011, to exercise an option to extend the time period to January 31, 2012, to change the scope of services and the terms effective February 1, 2011, and for additional funds in the amount of $287,000, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Brady. Mr. Vasquez, did you want to say something? Or?
Madam Council President, Councilwoman Conwell, Councilman Jones, and I visited the center last week, and we had our 100th PowerPoint presentation. Just kidding. Over the last 3 months, and it was very good, and we very much appreciate.
Well, I'm going to recuse myself on this because I am on the advisory board. But it is a wonderful program where persons who are formerly incarcerated can come. They can use the computers. They have a place to hang out if they only have a place else to go during the day. They have training. I donated a bunch of law books to the facility.
Oh, we saw them too.
Yeah. Okay.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would also strongly speak in favor of this because a relatively small number of people coming out on reentry get full-scale services, but this provides a program that anybody can go to and get help and referral and assistance. So it's a very good program. Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And please vote my recusal. All right, motion adopted. Item 0105.
Resolution number 2011-0105, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment to contract number CE 0800-734 with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County for the Help Me Grow component of the Invest in Children program for the period July 1, 2008 through June 30, 2011, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $316,416, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I move the resolution.
Second. All right, moved by Mr. Brady, second by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And we need to go to item 133.
134.
4, skip down, yes.
Rules have not been suspended yet on the other three.
No, I did the ones that pertain to Health and Human Services and not the other two, and skip down to 34.
All right, let's do 134.
Move to adopt. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting anxious.
Resolution number 2011-0134, a resolution authorizing the execution of a 14th supplemental base lease, 14th supplemental lease, and 10th supplemental assignment of rights under a lease with University Hospitals Health System Incorporated in connection with the release of certain property now constituting a portion of the leased real property securing previous issues of hospital improvement revenue bonds of the County of Cuyahoga, Ohio, authorizing other documents in connection with said release and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
This people should understand, and the director should speak to this. It's actually quite simple, but you wouldn't know it you wouldn't understand it by reading the resolution.
Right, and I think I can summarize it in less words than the actual resolution title. This allows the release of a small portion of property in the University Circle area in order for a new hotel to be constructed on Cornell Road. So this is the University Hospitals system asking us to release these. We issued these bonds some time ago on their behalf.
This is the same project that early on we loaned $800,000 to, I believe.
I believe so.
Aye.
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 Madam President? I can make that motion. I move that Rule 90 requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular meetings of council be suspended, and that Resolution 0131, 0132, and 0133 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0131, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into amendments to contracts with various providers for residential treatment services for the Youth and Family Community Partnership Program for the period January 1, 2010 through December 31, 2010, to exercise an option to extend the time period to December 31, 2011, and for additional funds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. 1, contract number CE 1125 with Applewood Centers Incorporated in the amount of $550,000. 2, contract number CE 1126 with Beach Brook in the amount of $450,000. 3, contract number CE 1127 with Belfair Jewish Children's Bureau in the amount of $500,000. 4, contract number CE 1129 with Catholic Charity Services Corporation doing business as Parmadale in the amount of $500,000. 5, contract number CE 1130 with the Cleveland Christian Home Incorporated in the amount of $500,000. And 6, contract number CE 1132 with the Village Network in the amount of $300,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
By Mr. Brady, is there any discussion?
Chair, it appears that I will need to recuse myself for two of these contracts to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, and those would be contracts as cited here, numbers 2 and 3, 126 and 127. So if we could perhaps maybe just single those two contracts out when we vote.
Can we
Yeah.
vote on the contracts individually, because we're going to have the same situation in the next resolution?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
unfortunately, all of the contracts have been included in one resolution. So my opinion is that that there needs to be a recusal for voting for the entire resolution.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, any discussion then on this, on the resolution? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And recusals?
Recuse.
All right, motion carries. All right, 0132.
Resolution number 2011-0132, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into amendments to contracts with various providers for residential treatment services to exercise an option to extend the time period to January 31, 2012, and for additional funds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. One, for the period February 1, 2010 through January 31, 2011, with contract number CE 10260 with the Cleveland Christian Home Incorporated in the amount of $300,000, and two, for the period June 1, 2010 through January 31, 2011, contract number CE 1724 with the Glen Mills Schools in the amount of $350,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Ms. Simon. Is there any discussion?
Chair? I just want to state that this resolution, as well as the other two, were heard in committee, and we had the juvenile court administrator there, who's here tonight, Marita Kalavac, if there's any questions. But I just want to point out that these contracts were addressed during the first reading of these particular resolutions by the court administrator, so they've already been addressed. But just to restate that these are different from the DCFS contracts we looked at as a council, where we had a whole list of these contracts with service providers. These are different. These are juvenile court contracts for juveniles who are determined to be unruly and delinquent. So these are different from those that we already looked at, but they've already been addressed by the court administrator. So I move passage, encourage it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Gallagher.
Just going forward, anything dealing with Glen Mills, if they could put that aside separately. In my opinion, they haven't justified their being in need there until they do. On this, I'll vote because they provide the services, but going forward, until they justify their services to the county, I'll be voting no. So if anything dealing with Glen Mills going forward is set aside and not incorporated into any, duplicates with the any other service providers. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. All right, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. 0133.
Resolution number 2011-0133, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into amendments to contracts with various providers for staff secure shelter care services for the period January 1, 2010 through December 31, 2010, to exercise an option to extend the time period to December 31, 2011, and for additional funds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. One, contract number CE 10,091 with Carrington Youth Academy in the amount of $916,052. And two, contract number CE 10,094 with the Cleveland Christian Home Incorporated in the amount of $527,948.
I move passage of 0133.
Second.
All right, moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Miller. Is there a discussion? Favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. All right, the ayes have it. All right, moving on to item 16. Committee reports and consideration of an ordinance for second reading, adoption under suspension of the rules.
Madam
Motion.
President, it's my understanding that we're not going to suspend the rules on this and we're going to refer it to committee. Is that correct?
That is correct, but I also wanted a second reading by the clerk.
Yes.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2011-0016, an ordinance establishing the Department of Law and the powers and duties of the Director of Law and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
The entry will be then no action and will remain in the committee.
Madam President? Yes, exactly. That, I was going to just make a motion, but I guess it's not necessary to refer it back. It'll just no action taken. But I just want to make a quick statement about this. The Justice Affairs Committee met on Friday, April 1st. It was April Fool's Day, and duly noted by the actual gravity of what we're really making a determination on. This is a huge issue regarding the allocation of powers and duties between the prosecutor's office and the law department and the law director. And with that in mind, I think it's important that this committee reevaluate the actual ordinance that we have presented to council. Pending a determination by the Attorney General's office, we will be looking to reevaluate this, but not necessarily be bound by it as well. I just want to make sure that it's understood that we're a separate body, council body, and we will respect the process going on now between the executive and the prosecutor's office and let that process occur, and we'll reevaluate down the road to see exactly how the power should be allocated. And I want to make clear that I thought I made it clear at this particular committee meeting that no one on the Justice Affairs Committee were advocating the law director to go inside the prosecutor's civil law department and to take files and to immediately oust the employees at that office. I understand there's some trepidation, understandably, but it was made very, very clear that no one had that intention to take files, to call into jeopardy the employees of the civil department at the prosecutor's office. And I'd made clear as well that those lawyers are well respected and will continue to be for the work they've done and will do. So with that in mind, we will not take action today on Ordinance 0016 and we'll reevaluate in committee.
All right, thank you, Ms. Simon. Item 17, consideration of an ordinance for a third reading under suspension of the rules.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Miller.
This is another item where, because this is a special meeting, that we need a motion even though this is the third reading, and therefore I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular meetings of council be suspended, and that ordinance number 2011-0015 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Is there a second? All right, moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell to suspend the rules. Is there any discussion on suspending the rules? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended as it relates to 0015.
Ordinance number 2011-0015, an ordinance to expire on or before June 30th, 2011, providing for the approval and adoption of human resources policies and procedures for Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
I moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell. I have indicated there were going to be some amendments.
Madam President?
Yes, okay.
Madam President, I would move to amend, and if you would turn to page 206 in your manual for today, the amendment is listed there. Even though it says proposed amendments by Dale Miller, there's only one amendment. It's all one amendment, and what it does is that it aligns the manual with the public records ordinance that we passed last week, specifically in two ways. Number one is that it follows state law requiring that that if a public office has a general policy and procedure manual, that the public records policy be included in the manual. And the second thing is that it says that that a media request does, but a public records request by a media organization does not need to be referred to the Director of Communications, but can be handled by the department that has the necessary information. The amendment has been reviewed by Chairperson Conwell and by Director Hara, and they signed off on it, and I ask for your approval of the amendment.
All right, so we need a motion to amend, is that correct?
I made that motion.
Okay, all right. All right, so it's moved and seconded to adopt the amendment. All right, is there any discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor of amending the ordinance indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. The motion carries for the amendment. Mr. Greenspan.
Madam President, I too have an amendment. It's on page 205 in your program. This pertains to Section 3 in the Human Resource Manual as it relates to ethics. And once again, working with Director Hara on coming up with this, essentially what we're doing is replacing Section 301 with a C reference, basically saying, see the complete policy at the website. The remaining sections, and we can adopt these as one amendment, the remaining sections 302, 303, 304, 305, 306, and 307 all can be redacted because they're currently incorporated into the ethics ordinance.
All right, is there a second on that amendment?
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Mr. Miller. Are there any discussion on the amendment, the second amendment? All right, all those in favor of adopting the second amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Amendment is made. Now, do we need a motion on the amended ordinance?
Madam President?
Yes.
There is a motion on the floor for the main motion, and it has been amended, so we just need to call the roll on or a voice vote on adoption of the main question.
Are there any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and we now have a human resource policy. All right, item 18, are there any miscellaneous committee reports? Mr. Gallagher.
For the record, Madam Chair, out of Public Safety, Resolution 2011-0121, it was a resolution regarding the kitchen and the county jail. The winning bidder was rejected. I would assume that will be rebid.
Any other miscellaneous committee reports?
Madam President?
Mr. Jones.
Our traditional Public Works Committee of Wednesdays at 2 will be pushed back to Wednesday at 3 in recognition of the county executive's address tomorrow. Thank you. I amend it. We will stay at 2.
Mr. Miller.
Madam President, at the last meeting of Budget and Finance, Director Rubino came in and gave an excellent report on the likely impact of the state budget on the county, and it was very helpful. And the short version of it is that for calendar year 2011, it looks like we have a problem somewhere in the range of $10 to $15 million. It's significant but manageable, and so we're going to be working toward doing a mid-year update of the budget. So we're working through that process.
right, thank you, Mr. Miller. Anything further? Any other miscellaneous committee reports?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this doesn't come under any direct committee, but I did want to report that I had the opportunity last week to go to the 69th Annual Human Services Institute, sponsored by the Community Solutions, Center for Community Solutions. I must admit, I was thinking, oh boy, going to another one of these sessions, but I'm telling you that this was a fantastic session that they put on. We heard from our executive, did an excellent job of explaining that Hunger Network and the food bank and how we can have collaboration by getting some of these public nonprofits together. And that was very well received by the audience. And then we had Greg Moody, director of the Governor's Office of Health Transformation. He had, I think, a very thorough explanation of what they're trying to accomplish with Medicaid and Medicare. And quite frankly, being a Democrat, I was not sure exactly how to accept this, but I'm telling you, it was a very convincing argument about solving a problem that the state and all states are facing. And this Greg Moody, it was up there in front of all these nonprofits and people connected to health services, and he answered every question perfectly. And Madam Chair, you'll be proud to know that I brought your name up because I went to the CEO's briefing, and they had President Cartwright from BGSU, and I said, well, our county council president always speaks highly of BGSU, was on the board and so on. Excellent presentation for all the CEOs of the nonprofits that were in attendance. So I just wanted to give my congratulations for the Center for Community Solutions for having an excellent program at the center last weekend, or last Thursday. Thank you.
All right, any other miscellaneous committee reports? Under miscellaneous business, I'd like to introduce our new assistant clerk, Ms. Nikki Barnhill, who joined us yesterday. And we've got to get her out of here because I think she's going to be charged with animal abuse because she's been here since early this morning and left her poor animal at home. So we've got to get her out of here. But she came really well recommended, and we're looking forward to working with her. So welcome. All right, we do have, we had asked Mr. Bibb to come in, and most of us have been here since 1 o'clock this afternoon. So if you wouldn't mind, we're going to have you come back at another meeting because I think we're all kind of beat out and tired. You can thank Mr. Greenspan for that. But we're going to have you come back at another meeting. We appreciate your consideration. We do have one gentleman from the County Association who'd like to come forward.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm a little dry after your long session. My name is Larry Long. I'm the Executive Director of the County Commissioners Association of Ohio. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon and this evening and to be with you. I guess I'm just here to sort of welcome you and ask that you participate in our association. We are the County Commissioners Association. Now, if we get three more charter counties, we may have to change the name of that association, but the association is open to all county commissioners, county elected executives, or appointed executives if it's an alternative form of county government, and all members of county councils. And so Summit County has been very active with us through the years. As a matter of fact, one of the former county executives was president of our association. The vice president of the county council in Summit County is a member of our board of directors. And so I know we bury you with paper sometime, and we'll probably continue to do that. We do have and invite all of you to participate, particularly in one committee that we have, which is a committee on metropolitan and regional affairs. and that's usually limited to counties over about 275,000 or more. So it's the larger counties in this state. We'd welcome your active participation in that committee. So it's a pleasure to be here. We are governed by totally county commissioners, and we only represent county commissioners and executives and county council members in the legislature. We're having a lot of fun right now in the legislature. Mr. Miller mentioned a briefing that you had on the state budget. We'll be before the subcommittees 3 times on this Thursday, dealing with various issues. And of course, the primary issues from our standpoint deal with the cuts to the local government fund, which is about a 50% cut over a 2-year period, significant reductions in tangible personal property tax and public utility property tax reimbursements, significant cuts in TANF funding, significant cuts in child care funding, reductions in adoption subsidy monies, the elimination of what we think is really a great program, the Kinship Permanency Program, and that's a little amount of money. It's only about $5 million statewide. So there's significant cuts there. I know it may be manageable. We're very concerned in a big picture sense, and yet we know we got this challenge. We know we have to, some of the sacrifice counties are going to have to take with everyone else, and yet we ask the question with a 17% budget problem, why did the local government fund get cut by 50%, and why were public utility reimbursements slashed in the range of 45% or so? And there are policy reasons for this. There are some decent things in the budget. They've tried to give us some additional tools. And I think one of the challenges that we have with charter counties is the impact and the relationship to state enabling legislation as it relates to charter counties. And so we solicit and ask for your active participation in that regard. Let me give you just one example in the human resource area in terms of how it applies to a statutory county and how it might apply to a charter county, which I'm not sure exactly how it would. One of the things that we requested of the administration and is in the budget right now, given the cuts that's taken place, frankly, is the idea that we think we need the authority for appointing authorities in this state, in county government, to be able to reduce work weeks. Right now, under general civil service law, anytime pay is reduced, other than for cause, it's an appealable action to the State Personnel Board of Review, and under the charter, if I understand it right, to your Human Resource Commission. So we have specific authority in there that's going to allow county appointing authorities to reduce work week hours up to 50% of normal hours. I'm not exactly sure how that relates to a charter county, to be quite frank with you. And I use that as an example of why we need you in a very active way in terms of legislation that's going to be passed, and we want to be sure that legislation does not impede the inherent authority that you have under the charter, or there may be ways we need to fix that in the General Assembly. I'm the last one for the night, I think, so I'm going to stop there. Let me just say it's a pleasure to be here. I was sitting back and thinking that a couple weeks ago I was in a county of 12,000 people with a general fund budget of about $2.6 million where they run the whole county and sit, and then we come up to a county like Cuyahoga and other large counties where the budgets in the general fund approach $500 million. And so it's always a challenge for us to try to work with those. We do the best we can in terms of trying to find commonality among those counties. So it's a pleasure to be here. Be pleased to respond to any questions, and again, solicit your active participation. Thank you very much.
And we thank you for coming to our fine city and contributing to our economy by spending the night in one of our local hotels. And doing
I'll be there, and I'll be at the State of the County tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anything further? All right, before we adjourn, we have to announce that our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April 12th, 4 o'clock for our council work session and 6 o'clock for our regular meeting. Is there any other business before we call for a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Let me I just want to say how proud I am of this council and really our executive. The last couple weeks in particular, I've been having a lot of communication with people door to door, and I've been talking about what's happening in Cuyahoga County, and we've got a lot to be proud of. And I've been telling people we have a rock star as a development director. And it was kind of like a pun on because he was director of it. And then the next week we get Majid Malouf, which was a tremendous attorney that's coming to be our law director. And I am thankful, and I've been telling people how great our committee's been working on the ethics. I know your whole committee has worked tremendously. This is a proud day in Cuyahoga County. We've had a great 2 weeks, and I'm just really proud of being a part of this.
All right, motion to adjourn? All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting stands adjourned. And you said that after the plain dealer left.